Hey everybody, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here. And in X, aka Twitter news, the European Union may actually get X's secret sauce. Now, before we dive in, I always like to have a preamble in these segments that basically says cybersecurity is agnostic from politics, but we're not immune from it. I personally do not care what your politics are. You could be on the right or the left or somewhere in between. The point is, these are the facts on the ground, and we have to acknowledge essentially what's going on here. Now, this is coming from the Irish Times, and here's what's going on, because the European Commission in Brussels has now ordered Elon Musk to fully disclose recent changes made to recommendations on X. Now, they're stepping up an investigation into the role of X, aka Twitter, specifically that platform, in EU politics. Now, the expanded probe by the EU Commission was announced this past Friday, and it's requiring X to hand over internal documents regarding its recommendation algorithm. In other words, when you're on X, aka Twitter, and you're scrolling through the recommended side, essentially X is recommending things to you, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Now, the Commission also issued a retention order for all relevant documents related to how the algorithm could be amended in the future. On top of this, the EU regulators requested access to information on how the social media network moderates and amplifies its content. Now, this move, for the record, follows complaints from politicians in Germany that X's algorithms are promoting content by far-right politicians or far-right political groups in advance of the country's elections on February 23rd. Now, Elon Musk, for the record, has come out in favor of the right-wing nationalist Alternative for Germany, or AfD party, arguing that they're going to save Germany. He wrote an op-ed on this. I actually read that op-ed. It was in, I want to say, not Der Spiegel, but like another German publication and some others. So when asked if the expanded probe was a response basically to the controversial interview that Elon Musk conducted last week with AfD co-leader Alice Weidel, the commission spokesperson said the new request helped, quote, us monitor systems around all these events taking place, end quote. Now, he did also say that it was, quote, completely independent of any political considerations or any specific event. We are committed to ensuring that every platform operating in the EU respects our legislation, which aims to make the online environment fair, safe, and democratic for all European citizens. That is according to Henna Virkunen, the Commission's digital chief. So, Twitter, for the record, aka X, did not immediately respond, for a request for comment. And let me give you 2 points, if I may, here. First things first, I have absolutely, personally and anecdotally, not to mention read articles on it, et cetera, but I have seen a political shift on X to the right. I basically, as I scrolled through, I had prior to Elon Musk taking over, I had a very nicely curated Twitter feed where I could get news from around the world on things like tech, et cetera, and essentially that recommendation algorithm was pretty balanced in the news that I would be ingesting all over the world. I have seen that shift to the right. And again, you might think that's awesome, you might absolutely hate it. That's not the point. The point is it's happening. And so by virtue of that, here we are. Now, the interesting part is that ever since Mark Zuckerberg basically announced about a week and a half ago or so that they were going to be cutting the fact checkers, interestingly enough, and I'm actually working on a piece for this for a video presentation, that I have also seen, hey, maybe you'd be interested in following this person, decidedly shift to the right of the political spectrum, at least here in the United States. So I think these are things that seem to be happening, and they seem to be reporting on. And of course, if Elon Musk owns a platform, and let's say he's a big fan of the AfD in Germany, and again, you might love him or hate him, I don't care, but if he really does think that they are going to, quote unquote, save Germany, then why wouldn't he want to use his platform to help them? It aligns with his political beliefs. So I think that's essentially what we're talking about here. Now, if he was far left and pushing a far left party and doing the same thing, this segment wouldn't be any different. The point is that it's happening. And I think the point is if we move from the center, we start missing news. We start missing information. We're only getting one side of the political spectrum when I think we should hear all voices. And I think that's an important one just for stability in the future. Now, on top of it, and this is the other point that I want to make, is that algorithms to major platforms is essentially what the recipe to Coca-Cola is to, well, Coca-Cola. Right? It's heavily guarded. It's what makes Coca-Cola Coca-Cola and not Pepsi or RC or any of the other competitors out there. And by virtue of that, they guard it very deeply in the same way that the platforms basically guard their algorithms. Google had an exposure of their algorithm. It was a major issue back in 2024, but this is essentially the secret sauce for them in terms of attracting advertisers to the platform, recommending basically said advertisers to the platforms, then obviously curating your feed for what they think you'll like. And so if that is shifting or changing or has the ability to be manipulated by these platforms, and for the record, it is absolutely manipulated by these platforms because they're building them and they're tweaking them as they've gone on. The algorithm in 2006 in Facebook is nothing like the algorithm that we've got today. So these are things to consider, but if we get a peek under the hood actually of how X is operating, I think it's going to be really telling in terms of how they can deliver an information ecosystem that could potentially swing people to one side of the political spectrum or the other if that's the only thing they're receiving in terms of news. And we know per studies that more people are receiving their news from, friends on Facebook or social media than they are actually going to a website of a major publication that is known good, known vetted. So here we are. We're going to see what happens. I really don't want hate on this segment, from people. Again, I do not care what you believe. Cybersecurity is agnostic to politics, but I think we're about to see that we're not immune from it once again. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, where here they are with the algorithms. Same with YouTube, which hopefully recommends me to you. And I'm also on Blue Sky and Mastodon, slightly different there. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay informed. Take care.